Okay, I just have to talk about this. If I haven't already made this clear, this season of anime is filled with yuri goodness. With Girls Club anime as far as the eye can see, and a show with a larger assortment of gay ninja girls than Senran Kagura, it's hard to be a yuri fan and not be overwhelmed with uncontrollable giddiness. But one anime that stands on top of the pile is taking an interesting approach to the genre, and that is Rock is a Lady's Modesty. I want to point out that the show is really shooting to the top of potentially being one of my all-time favorites. As long as they can maintain this level of quality, I can really see Rock Lady being talked about for ages to come. Now, I already made a video talking about the first 2 episodes of the anime, so here's my follow-up video about my thoughts on the rest of the show. So heads up on any potential spoilers if you're not already caught up yet. Alright, let's get ready to rock out with our cock out. So when we last left our gay heroines, Leilisa came back to her and Otaha's love nest, asking her what reason would a high-class lady have for getting involved in rock and roll. Then the goddess rebutted that no matter the class, creed, or gender, the need to rock needs no justification, which peeved Leilisa off. Having spent the last couple of years learning to be hoity-toity, Leilisa knows how grueling it was having to leave behind her old life and putting on a facade for the uptight upper class. And this includes giving up the thing she loved the most, which was playing the guitar. But of course, seeing that her love still remained, Ota egged Leilisa on, prompting her to engage in another hardcore sweaty rock battle. The entire time, Leilisa tried convincing herself that being a class-ass maiden was her one and only goal. But the urge to rock and be gay was great, and Ota, with her wicked temptress ways, was finally able to draw her back in. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out the obvious sexual metaphors. Our 2 leading ladies engaged in some wildly intense performances, filled with vulgarity and more moisture than an Olympic swimming pool. There's even a post-sex scene of our 2 heroines sporting a stunning afterglow, while also locking fingers with each other. Any form of subtlety at this point was dragged behind a barn and executed mafia style. But just to add a nice little cherry on top, it's hard to ignore the unpretentious imagery of these girls participating in the popular pastime of lesbian BDSM. Thrice with our main pairing, and another time involving Leilisa and newcomer Tamaki. The rock and roll is more of a gateway to sexual escapades than what I initially thought, or Leilisa is suppressing some very hot and heavy fetishes. If gushing over magical girls has taught us anything, it's that you should just embrace your passion and let it all hang out. Let people see both the ugliest and most beautiful side of you. So with the Oto Lily ship officially being established, our heroines decided to go ahead and start their crazy sweaty band. Now episode 4 mainly puts Leilisa's stepsister Alice in the driver's seat, and illustrates just how much she does not like her twin-tailed protagonist. Basically, she views Leilisa and her mom as a bunch of scheming witches, who wish to demolish the familial paradise that she and her father has established. And while I can understand that this is a very childlike mentality, I will say that she has some semblance of justification. See, Alice hates phoniness, which is why Leilisa, being a former poor person masquerading as a not poor person to everyone, draws so much ire from the Emoto. Obviously, her hate is misguided, but it does speak to the wider picture of the series about being genuine to oneself, and to not be a slave to conformity, man. Anyway, our 2 girl bosses nearly had their cover blown when Alice swooped in on their secret jamming session, and after some not so nice words were exchanged between sisters, Oto Lily brushed it off by getting pumped for their very first collaboration concert. So I don't have too much to say about episode 5, except for the fact that I couldn't stop laughing, because the entire thing reminded me of that SpongeBob episode where Squidward started a band just to impress Squilliam.
ご理解いただけましたか？この一歩野郎が。ごきげんよう。
But basically, our 2 rockers assisted a symphonic band named Red Familia, and found out that there were a bunch of greenhorns. It showed them being quite complacent and preferring to play at their own slow pace, which obviously didn't jive well with our turbo-playing duo. But if that wasn't bad enough, Alice was invited to this poor people event, and immediately spotted Leilisa playing a poor people instrument. But then she and everyone in the audience were thunderstruck when Oto Lily came out guns blazing and made the band members play at their crazy pace. There were some confusion and struggle, but everyone eventually managed to push through and deliver an amazing performance. All thanks to some passionate go-getters giving them a good push. Now, I don't know anything about music. In fact, I thought a B minor was just a lesser pedophilic charge than an A minor. But even I know that if you want to get better at playing an instrument, you gotta move past your comfort levels and accept that making mistakes is just part of the craft. Being passionate about something is akin to being authentic. And in the end, the members of Red Familia, and by extension our main characters, are better off from it. And it's that authenticity that apparently gets Alice to see the light, after learning that Leilisa's true self was actually really hot. And from that day on, a siscon was born, made more evident from her deciding to keep the symbolic Yuri flowers. Did I mention how fucking gay this show is? Also, I just want to bring up this doozy of a scene. So after doing an about face, Alice asked Mama Lilsa about her rocking new Onesama, and what she was like in the past. And after conjuring the spirit of Annie Wilkes, she said that Lilsa was always a Susan Omiya. There is no past Lilsa. Just like there's no SCPs, MK Ultra, and 5G radiation. So the show has given us a couple of mysteries so far. Obviously, one of them is Mama Lila's staunch aversion to discussing her and Lila's past. It's heavily implied that Lila's dad, who's no longer in the picture, has something to do with this. But it seems that whatever happened has led Mama Lila to cast death stares at anyone crazy enough to ask. The other mystery involves Otaha's past. We actually don't know too much about her, but the show hints at her being coy about things like the student council and telling something important to Lilasa. Not to mention one of the previous noble maidens having an uncanny resemblance to Ota herself. In due time, I suppose. Now, episode 6 is where things really kick into high gear, because they introduce not one, but 2 new characters. The first being Isumi Tina, a gorgeous prince with riz coming out of every orifice, and the other being Shiraya Tamaki, an ice queen with a terrifyingly dominant aura, who I may or may not have desires to feel her frigid cold feet pressed down on my face. Anyway, we learn pretty quickly that Tina is actually putting on her handsome act just to appease the people around her, because it's what they come to expect. However, this means that Tina was never able to express herself in a way that's genuine. After seeing Lilasa go f***ing nuts on stage, she thought this was the answer she was looking for. Rock music, baby. Again, it's continuing that theme of being two-faced, but eventually coming to accept the side of you that makes you genuinely happy. And on the other end, Tamaki and Otaha, who are revealed to be former music partners slash possible ex-girlfriends, meet up to discuss their future music endeavors, with Tamaki offering Otaha to join her in starting a new band. The condition? Ditch that conniving wench Lilasa.
今すぐあいつは捨てろ。あいつのギターには何の魅力もない。お前を満足させられるのは私のギターさ、オト。
シロさんは私のパートナーには何も魅力がないとおっしゃいますが、相変わらず目が曇っていらっしゃいますのね。申し訳ありませんが、私はリリーに夢中ですの。
俺彼女いますし。
By the way, at the risk of sounding redundant, I just want to mention how much overt lesbian tension there is in this episode. Obviously, we have Lilasa once again being turned on by another Bishoujo, who later inexplicably falls on top of, exposing her bountiful Lady Tatas. And we even have Tamaki, who basically tries to seduce Ota and coming back to her, and gets visibly annoyed at Lilasa, who she views as undeserving of Ota's talent and affection. It's pretty clear Tamaki has a soft spot for Ota, considering she treats everyone else like a piece of trash flying around on a freeway. But it's also clear that Otaha is fixated only on our twin-tailed protagonist, seemingly falling deeper in love with her each episode. Anyway, so following this, we learn that our heroines were dragged into a band competition. The stakes being that Tamaki will accept Lilasa's true power if she can knock her socks off. If not, then Ota will leave her soulmate and join the Ice Queen instead. So with Tamaki on bass and Tina on keyboard, our band of misfits is finally complete. However, episodes 7 and 8 shows us this ain't no fluffy girls band anime, where everyone gets along and plays better thanks to the power of friendship. Since learning that Tina is actually a bit of a noob on keyboard, she has mountains to climb if she's gonna be on the same level as the others. And obviously the seething hot tongue of Tamaki does not go easy on our sweet prince. Despite working her sexy ass off, her skills were still not enough to impress the Stone Cold Maiden. But the biggest takeaway from both episodes is just how dedicated Tina is to stepping up to the plate, and surprisingly how much support she gets from Lilasa. See, Tina mastering piano is more than just getting on the same level as her bandmates. It symbolizes her making the effort to change herself, and not be beholden to other people's expectations. This clearly strikes a chord with Lilasa, whose situation is quite similar, which is why she goes full throttle in keeping Tina a part of the band.
勝ちたければ腕を磨け。そんな奴に構ってる場合か。お前は貴重な時間を無駄に捨ててるんだぞ。仲間にかける時間が無駄なわけないでしょ。一つ聞かせろ。お前はどうしてそこまでそいつをバンドに残したいんだ。自分らしく生きたいとあがくやつとロックしたいからよ。
Excellent!
Anyway, Lilisa proposed to Tamaki that she can make Tina a prodigy in just 5 days. And if she still isn't up to snuff, then Tamaki can start calling all the shots. Boy, there's lots of deals being made in this show, huh? Now, of course, this is still a Herculean task. So Otaha herself came to the rescue of our blonde and blue heroines. Basically, something make playing notes easier. Like I said, I don't know anything about music, but after performing to Tamaki again, and with a little buttering up from Ota, Tina was able to pass the qualifiers, and thus will join the others in the battle of the bands. So get ready for a gay old time. And boy did we ever. Holy shit, This episode reminded me of episode 8 of Bocce the Rock, just amplified to ridiculous degrees. Specifically the pressure and sexual tension. So our insane quartet rolled up to face against Team Midriff, who despite playing music that primarily panders to the public, still delivered a spanking good performance. Then it was time for Team Blank de Nord plus Alpha. Name tentative. And unfortunately, they had a really rough start. First with Tina struggling to keep up with the other members. The pressure and mistakes were nearly enough to cause the busty beauty to call it quits. But thanks to Ota's guidance, Tina managed to finally get on the same tempo. I also really appreciate the visual metaphors shown in these scenes. I can only imagine how daunting it is to perform under these circumstances. Feeling trapped and hopeless with everyone critiquing every little action you make. But the show must go on. And Tina remembered Lila's advice to push through until the very end, because a committed performance is better than no performance at all. Then it was Lila's turn to be put in the hot seat. After hearing a bunch of less than savory commentary by the audience, Lilasa began to feel the pains of insecurity. But no one calls her guitar shredding mediocre and gets away with it. The feisty blonde and her feisty retainer allowed the rock demons to possess them. And then all hell broke loose. Not even the Ice Queen could contain this level of nuclear lesbian energy. But it's clear Tamaki got to witness Lila's true power. A rocker who gives zero fucks and goes absolutely nuts with primal urges. And in the end, their libido to rock out delivered them a concert to end all concerts. The question remained if it was still enough to win the competition, and how sodden their panties are after all that fingering. Tune in next time to find out. So if I haven't made this obvious by now, the show continues to impress me. Fantastic characters, great pacing, glorious animation, and music that'll even get the gods to boogie down. Like I said in the intro, I have no doubt this show will be talked about for a long time. It kicks things up a notch from a usual girls club anime, and most importantly, it has characters who seem to embody the I don't give a fuck attitude of rock and roll. And I am all in for it, man. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see me cover the rest of it. Alright, that's it. See you around.
え